Welcome to the podcast where we take a deep dive into the stories behind construction business leaders. We will share how they got started, how they found success, and the lessons learned along the way. I'm your host, Eric Fortenberry. Welcome to Builder Stories. Welcome back, everybody. I'm excited. I have a very special guest who I've been trying to get on this show for a long time now. We've got Ken Combs, who is the owner of CQC Homes. They're located in Raleigh, North Carolina, do really great work. They're a design build remodeling firm. So really excited to have Ken on here. Welcome to Builder Stories.
What's up, Eric, man? Thank you so much for having us on. And we're excited to talk to a lot of people just coming out of the job trade conference, man. It was really fun and exciting and took a lot from it, learned a lot from it. So we're excited to be back to it.
Awesome, man. Well, again, appreciate you coming on. I know you got a busy schedule, so it's awesome to finally get you on here. I've been following along with your work for quite a while now. So, again, why don't you kind of kick us off? Give us a little background. How did you get into construction in the first place? What led you to start your business? What do you guys do? Things like that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll kind of give you the backstory. So it's kind of funny. I've told people before, like I kind of fell into this industry. I didn't go to college, graduated high school, and I was kind of a wandering soul trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And I answered an ad in the newspaper at that time, classifieds that said no experience necessary. I was 19, and so showed up to a job site and met Lee Munson of LMA Incorporated in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and he was hiring for a laborer to pick up trash, move, hump lumber, whatever. He hired me on the spot, and that was the beginning of my career in construction. So I worked for him. He was kind of what I would call starving artist. Built beautiful homes, but he did everything himself, and ran a very small business, but he did everything the right way, but really didn't make any money. So for a long time. So I worked for him. He taught me carpentry. He taught me how to do everything the right way. So I went from laborer to carpenter, then became his project manager. Worked for him for 3 or 4 years, about 3.5 years or so, and then just kind of decided, had that natural entrepreneurial spirit. Decided I was going to go off and start my own thing. So I went off, I left working with him and went to start building staircases because oddly enough, a lot of carpenters don't want to do anything that's not 45 degrees or 22 and a half. So I was like, well, this is a niche where I can do angles and I can get creative and make more money because nobody else wants to do it. So I built staircases as a subcontractor for a couple years for Southern Staircase and Port City Staircase and a couple other companies here in North Carolina. Really kind of learned how everything was eat what you kill, so I really learned how how to work hard, and made a lot of mistakes, did a lot of projects that should have taken half a day. It took me 2 days or 3 days, but it was kind of, you get paid by the job. So did that for a while, and then that kind of developed into people asking me to do other types of carpentry related jobs. So I was a carpenter, basically by trade, and people were asking me to build screen porches and decks and other things of the sort, built-ins. Each project was my own first project, so I had to learn how to do it as I was doing it, right? So someone hired me to build a porch, and I had to learn how to build a screen porch, while I was doing it. So, so every project was a learning lesson, and every new project was my first project. So I did that for a long time. Got better at it, studied, self-taught. Brought on guys, and just kind of slowly grew as I was doing. I wouldn't say I was doing the best work, but I really cared about what I was doing, and I made sure that it was right, even if it took way longer than it should have, and it was a bad process. So mm, I was running about 5 or 6 guys, subcontractor, all 1099, under the table, kind of like not a true legitimate business. I started Custom Quality Carpentry, LLC, which was my original company. That I'll get into a minute. Kind of rebranded into CQC Home when I became Design Build. But one day I was just like, man, from reading magazines, Remodeling magazine, Qualified magazine, Qualified Remodeler, Builder magazine. I mean, I really learned from other people in the industry that I wasn't doing it the right way, or it was too much risk to be running guys under the table, not having workers' comp, all these good things, right? So one day, I just pulled the trigger and said, I'm going to become legitimate. And went and got workers' comp. Went and got general liability insurance. Put 5 guys on payroll, and then the fun really started. So then I realized how hard it is to run an actual legitimate business versus just like going out, selling jobs and building things for people, right? So I mean, it was fun, it was exciting, it was busy, but it just wasn't a real business. So the next phase of my career, Eric, really became like, now I was like, man, I don't know how to run a business. I got to learn how to be a businessman and not how to be a construction worker or a carpenter, right? So then I studied everything I possibly could find for years on money management, cash flow management, hiring, project management, training, how to manage a team, how to, lead flow, all the different things that go into aspects of business. And there was a lot of struggles for sure. I mean, there was days where, we're robbing Peter to pay Paul and trying to figure out how we were going to make it. And, never took any loans from anybody. Just everything was kind of bootstrap, and just kind of learned through the progress. Fast forward a few years in 2014. I just brought on my first designer and decided to rebrand. I had a lot of people that with the name Custom Quality Carpentry, which also had your generic logo that, a lot of people start with a hammer and a nail and a saw, right? A lot of people kind of like cornered me into, well, he's only does carpentry, right? Well, we were doing bathroom remodels and kitchen remodels and things of that nature. So it's not just carpentry. That's just one aspect of remodeling. So I rebranded into CQC Home, brought on a designer, and started this design build process, that we run today. And it's just developed and grown year over year. I've constantly tried to learn and grow and improve and bring on good people and hire the right people. I always say, hire people that are smarter than me and let them do their job. Let them tell me what to do, right? And so that's kind of what I've done year over year, and we've just successfully grown. And with last year. We did over 15 million in revenue with just the one CQC Home, and its business is fully management run today. So I allows me the opportunity to go and help and teach other people how to do the same thing, which is my true passion. And but all good. So I mean, there's no like one single thing I would say that changed. I think it's just a combination of wanting to learn, giving good service to people, caring about people, and then finding good people to come on. And so, like our mission at CQC Home is to tangibly improve the lives of our employees and our clients. So everything we do is through that lens. So if it's a product, if it's a service, if it's just like bringing on job tread, right? We were with Co-Construct and Builder Trend, and then we found a better service with you guys that improves the service and quality for our clients and our employees. So we bring it on and use it. So and that's been great. So I don't say there's no one thing. I think it's just been a combination of just constantly trying to like be better, improve, and offer whatever we can offer to be better for our clients and our employees. So that's kind of our kind of short kind of how we got here.
Man, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Incredible story. Like, again, like that's like the American dream right there. 19-year-old, picking up trash on the job site to running, doing over 15 million in sales last year. I mean, like, dude, kudos to you, man. Hats off. That's awesome.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
So much to dig into there. I think, just thinking back again, like to the very, early days of when you decided to go out on your own, like what would you say like were the biggest like surprises that, that you didn't realize, like, obviously you knew you were taking risks to start up your own thing, but like what do you think like were some of those like early, lessons that you just sort of got knocked down a little bit and didn't foresee happening?
I didn't realize how not understanding my numbers and not understanding how expensive it is to run a business. How expensive it is mentally and cost wise to have employees, right? You know what I mean? Like it's when you bring on someone, you're supporting their family and understanding. Labor burden and insurance and all the things that go along with what it costs to run a business. I really had no idea how expensive it was, and so it took years for me to figure out exactly, I've obviously had to learn how to even understand what a P&L was, and then but to understand how the overhead, the cost of running a business that's not the actual, cost of goods sold, not not what is the nails and brass tacks, right? It's the actual like the overhead that it takes to have employees and to run a business and have an office and all those and trucks and all those things. So, um, learning that and getting to the point where I was like, I actually understood where my overhead was, then it really gave me the realization that, I mean, had a lot of work, but that's because I was doing it for, very inexpensively, as some jobs for free, right? So of course people want to hire me because I'm doing their job at, for free for basically a cost because I didn't understand my overhead. So I think the big realization was like it is a lot more expensive, to do projects than I think people realize. I think the public gets a lot of false information from HGTV and other places like that. Remodeling is expensive, and having good people and good teams and having a career for them is very, very expensive. So therefore, being able to learn how to charge the right amount to be able to justify not only the cost of the job, but the cost of the overhead it takes to be able to support the job and support the client
Yeah.
long term, so I can stay in business and warranty their project and be there for them when they need something. So.
How long was it, like, when you know, at the very beginning, right? It's just you're wearing all the hats, you're selling, you're doing the work, like, how long until you made your first hire, and who was that first person?
It was probably I was solo for probably about 2 years, if I remember, 2.5 years. My first person was, basically a carpenter, so kinda brought on a carpenter's helper. In fact, he was a little more skilled than me at a lot of things carpentry-wise, so that allowed me to go sell jobs and then come in and help, and go sell jobs and come in and help. So my first I would say actually, my first 5 hires were all carpenters, and I was kinda running a lead carpenter system, right, where I would go sell the job, I'd set it up, I'd price it, I'd do all the paperwork at home, and then I'd set the team up in the morning and have them go run go build the project, whatever it was.
Sure. So you basically kinda took yourself out of the field first, and that enabled you to then keep focusing on sales, back office, kinda project management.
That's right.
What, how long did you keep those other tasks? At what point did you kind of get rid of the project management and the back office and the estimating?
Um, it was kind of like phased in like person by person. So like once we decided to become like a legitimate business, my next hire was like an office manager. So a person to answer the phones, help with insurance, help with printing things and scheduling things for me or whatever. So that was kind of like the next hire. And then, from there went to that's the probably the eighth person I say I would hire was the designer when we went into transition into design build. And the first designer was just essentially a kitchen designer. We were doing a lot of kitchens, and so she would come in, design the kitchen. So we added cabinet companies and cabinet suppliers, became a cabinet supplier, and just kind of developed from there.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, right? Like, so you had to, really figure out your numbers. Not, a lot of times people are using trade partners, subcontractors, like, they're giving you a cost, and you can sort of work with that. But like, you had your own staff, your own field team. So like, how did you go about like really understanding like, their production rates and like how, because obviously when you got to estimate a job and you have to do it based on how long it will take you and how much effort, like how did you start to figure those things out?
Well, I figured out the hard way that having in-house labor was very unpredictable. So I'd estimate 120 hours, and it would take 200, right? So I kind of learned that well, if I'm estimating this job to be 120 hours and it takes me 200, well, I just lost 80 hours of time, money, energy, effort, opportunity. Whereas if I subcontracted it to a carpentry team and they said it's going to be $1,000, whether it took 120 hours or took 200 hours, I was paying a fixed amount. So it was a controllable for me. So once I kind of learned that, then I was like, man, I want to make everything a controllable. That way, I just get the cost. I know what it's going to cost. I give them an accurate scope. And then so now, today with 30, I think 31 full-time employees, and I think we only have two. Well, I know we only have two guys on staff that are swing a hammer,
Wow.
and they pretty much just do punch, high end installs of some specialty stuff, but really they just are running from job to job and just kind of like doing little minor punch things that come behind subcontractors. So
Yeah. It's interesting. There's kind of like one of those great debates, right? Do I use in-house team, or do I use subcontractors? And what did what did you kind of go through? Because I know a lot of people are like, oh, I can't control their schedule, or I can't control the quality, or kind of whatever it may be. Like how did you sort of make that transition? And did you struggle to go from your own field team to the sub model?
Absolutely. I mean, it was a multi-year phase transition of less carpenters and more project managers. And it is tough because it's nice to have someone that comes in Monday morning at 8 o'clock and you know exactly what they're going to do and you can kind of control the process a little bit more. But so long as you set up the process well enough, when the schedule well enough. Like I always say, I'll build 2 schedules, 1 schedule for that's client facing and one that's internal. Make the client facing schedule longer than you think it's going to take you. That way if you hit your schedule, you surprise and delight the client. And if you have things that happen or change or whatever, then you're still on schedule with the client. So, but it was a tough transition. And I see a lot of small companies that are, they want to have that control of like, I want to know exactly what the guys are doing. And I know I can, if they do something wrong, I can tell them, "Hey, change this, do this better," right? Whereas subcontractors, it's a little different. But combination of subcontractor agreements, building a relationship with subcontractors that you work for, multiple projects over time. You eventually get to where you understand their level of quality. You have a level of trust where it's about the same. You have if they say it's going to be 3 days, you can kind of expect it's going to be 3 days, and then you can just plan accordingly. But it was a tough transition to get out of having that. I think a lot of it's just in construction business owners or in founders just want to have control of everything. And so being able to release the control, but trust the people that, trust and train the people that you bring on and release the control to them and let them be, let them run with it is really tough for a lot of people, but it's very freeing when you see people doing things the way that once you set up a process, set up SOPs, set up KPIs, set it up where they know exactly what they're expecting to do daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, then just watching it happen without you is very, very freeing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting when I took over the construction business where I built out the first version of this, like they had mostly trade subs and but they were paying them time and material. They were paying them either hourly or daily. And I was like, man, like this is no better than having a full-time person, like, because they're sitting there just dragging out, taking advantage of that, like open checkbook. And it's like, man, like that's when I came in. It's like, all right, we're gonna transition to the bid request. We're gonna get a fixed price, guaranteed amounts, and that's what you're getting paid. And like magically, our jobs started getting completed on time and on budget because we could lock in our cost. So even if you do use subcontractors, you got to make sure that you've got the right compensation structure in place, and that again, you're able to truly benefit from it.
Yeah, I mean, I say, like, for us, I mean, the smaller the company, the more fast and loose you can be. But obviously, as the company grows and evolves, the more predictable it can be, the better it is for the founder and for the team. So for us, anything over $500, we get an estimate for, before. So that and part of transitioning to the design build allows us the opportunity to do that because design is not just a lot of people think design is, oh, I'm just putting pretty things together. No, design is also feasibility, estimating. Not, I mean, anything's possible with enough money, right? But trying to build something and accomplish something within someone's budget, right? That's feasibility. What can be done, and so transitioning to a design build model where you've got 3 to 6 months to, let's say, to actually like get estimates on everything, to scope everything out, make sure it's possible, make sure it's feasible. That's also part of the design phase. It's not just making something look pretty or drawing something on it in a CAD program or whatever. That's just one aspect of the design phase. So it takes a little more time up front, but it's also a lot more predictable in the back end. We measure slippage and grippage, pretty closely. We try to stick around 1% slippage and grippage, and we do now. But I mean, back in the day, when we first started measuring it, man, we'd have jobs we were 10, 15, 20% slippage, and just like, why didn't I make any money on this? I did a $500,000 job. I didn't make any money. What happened? Because didn't have tight estimates, didn't have tight scopes, didn't have, there was too much flexibility, too many variables. And then we were like going into projects without having all of our numbers. So we'd say, I think this HVAC based on the last job is going to be $7,500 when it comes in and it's $10,000. Well, it's going, it costs what it costs. So that's where, back to your point, where if you say, hey, here's the scope, here's the plans, here's what we want you to accomplish, you give us a fixed price for that, then you know exactly what it's going to cost. Your project manager can go into it with confidence and say, okay, we've already agreed to a cost, you've already agreed to a scope, come do that scope, we'll pay you X dollars, right? And so it's a lot more predictable for the founder.
Yeah. So, you talked about when you transitioned to the design build, you hired your in-house designer. Like, were you outsourcing the design before that, or just didn't really need design on those projects? How did that transition happen?
Honestly, it was, back of the napkin design, so, like, someone wanted a screen porch, I mean, I would, kinda draw it up, tell them what I wanted, and try to figure it out as I went. There was very little design work, so, ended up with a lot of frustrated clients because they weren't getting what they expected because there was no clear path to what they actually wanted because it hadn't been designed. It hadn't been, it was just kinda like, "Oh, I'll build you a 12 by 16, A-frame screen porch," and then I'd do tongue and groove ceiling, and they're expecting true tongue and groove, and I'm doing 4 by 8 panels, but we never documented anything anywhere, right? And so that's where job trades is so great because everything is documented, and it's a phenomenal CYA. I mean, just and the more projects you do, the more CYA you need. I can just tell you because there's always going to be, there's human error, and just I've had clients that have specifically said I didn't say that, and then we go back into job trade or go back into our PM and say, here's the documentation to prove, and they're like, oh, I forgot I said that. You know what I mean? Like, and that happens. It's sometimes it's not even malicious, but if there's no documentation, it's just pretty much the client's gonna get what the client wants, unless you're just gonna have an unhappy client and get a bad review.
Yeah. I've seen, a lot of people who, they do transition into the design build, but they still have, the design work, as some sort of a partner, outsourced. I mean, I've heard a lot of people say that, man, when they bring the design in-house, it just like really unlocks so much opportunity for them. How do you sort of think about, when is the right time to have an in-house designer versus, leverage a partner?
Yeah, so I leveraged a partner, an architect, Katie, for probably about the first 5 years of design build. So 4 to 5 years. So where she was, most of her work was for me, but she was not employed by me. She was a subcontractor, and we learned how to work together. We partnered together. She showed up to the job site as if she was, worked as our partner, right? She's one of our teammates, although she wasn't an actual W-2 employee. And that worked out really, really well. But once we got to the point where we just had too many projects to leverage outside, help, and we needed kind of that personal touch of like clients coming into our showroom, and they need to be available to meet with them and talk with them on a daily basis. People coming in all the time. You can't have an outside subcontractor, expected to be in the office all the time, right? So that's kind of when we transitioned. And I would say for us, it was probably about the $5 million revenue mark when we brought on our first like draftsman. And we still don't have an architect on staff. We have multiple draftsmen on staff. So our design team's 11 people, but it consists of selection specialists, kitchen and bath designers, draftsmen, estimators, and then their manager, right? So that's our design team. And then we, are for structural stuff, we still use a subcontractor to, stamp all our plans and give us all our structural stuff. So we don't actually have a licensed architect on staff, but we have a draftsman that could get his license if he wanted to, but it's not necessarily necessary.
Sure. Would you say that like when you sort of transition into the design build, like did you see like your average, project size increase, and were you able to sell kind of higher end, more luxury, larger projects when you had the design to go with the project?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, our average job size obviously has gone up every year. Currently, it's about we're a little around 400,000 average job size. But somebody that's going to spend $250,000 on a garage, and you say, "Hey, I can build you this garage," but go talk to this other person, and they'll design it. What I found a lot of issues coming when I wasn't doing my own design was a homeowner would go to an architect, they would design a project. And I have a story, actually, I have one that stands out in my mind. This family spent a year and a half designing this big project on their home. It was beautiful. It was everything they wanted. So they're emotionally tied to it. They want to stay there. They love it. Then they send it to us for pricing, and we price it, it's close to $1 million. Well, their budget's $600,000. Well, you can't do this for $600,000. And then they're back to the drawing board, and it's not even about the money and time and energy they wasted. Like, they're emotionally tied to all these changes in their home with their kids and family or whatever. They spent so much time and care, but it can't be done. Whereas in design build allows us to say, okay, what is your budget? What do you want to accomplish? If we feel like we can accomplish that for your budget, and that's, let's say, feasibility, if it's possible, then we can design something that fits and solves your problems within that budget. And then you don't have that, kind of like going back to the drawing board, starting over, losing all the time and energy you wasted drawing something. Because architects are great, but they don't build things. So they don't really know what it costs. And so that's a big benefit to having the design in house and being a design build company.
Yeah, absolutely. And I heard you mention earlier about a showroom. I was going to ask you. I mean, do you have a showroom, and kind of when did you get that, and what's the impact on the business that had?
So the showroom really legitimized us. I mean, it kind of like set us up from if it's got chuck in a truck, I guess you would say. Really, having a place where people can come and like meet with the designer and look at their selections and look at their things and kind of get a more of a vision of what it's going to be versus kind of like doing out of the back of your truck, which is kind of how it started. It just really legitimizes it, and it gives clients a level of comfort to know that like they know what they're going to get, as well as they like this is an established establishment, right? You know what I mean? They're not going to take my money and run, which is a lot of fear that a lot of people have because of, a few bad eggs make everyone look bad, right? So, I would say, probably around the same time when went to design build is around 4 to 5 million is when we started our first, design room. And like anything, it's just evolved over time, right? We started off pretty rough, laid the tile on the floors ourselves and put the cabinets in, and then just over the years, as the market's changed and the business changed, we've evolved the showroom to be more to fitting our clients' needs.
Sure. And do you have multiple showrooms now? Because we were talking earlier. You're in Durham. You're in Raleigh. I think there was a triangle. Are these three
Yes. Yeah, no. So we have two offices. We work in Durham, Raleigh, and Chapel Hill are the main areas, but we also work kind of all over the Triad. It's a pretty big area here. But we have a main showroom that's right in between Durham and Chapel Hill. That's where all the team members work, the designers, architects, all of our management team. And then we have like satellite offices that are for our, me or salesmen to drop in. The clients don't really go to these offices per se. It's more so for just so we have a location, a Google location, as well as a satellite office for salesmen and or myself or management team to stop in if they're in the different city, right?
Sure.
But no, we only have one main showroom right now, but we're close enough. I mean, Durham, Raleigh, Chapel Hill are all within 20 miles of each other. So it's a triangle. So you can kind of get to anywhere. So our clients come from Raleigh to our showroom all the time.
Sure. So you said you've got what, I think 32 employees. Is that right?
Yeah, I think, I believe, including me would be 32.
So kind of give us sort of a breakdown of what's the makeup of that team? What are their roles?
Okay. So I'm CEO. Daryl's who runs the business for me for the most part. He's our COO, operations director. A lot of people call that role, when you start off, it starts off as general manager, right? Yeah. So that's kind of he's the elevated version of a general manager. So we have Daryl, and then under him we have two, which fills out the leadership team. We have a design director and a construction director, and those are, the two legs of the business, right? And those two manage their teams. The design team has 11 people, and then the construction team has about 19 people. So on the design team, it's kitchen designers, kitchen and bath designers, selection specialists, draftsmen, estimators. And then on the construction side, it's project directors, project managers, carpenters, and then assistant project managers.
Nice. And it's a good sized team there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. A lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah, absolutely. So who like I didn't necessarily hear kind of like marketing. How do you guys do all your marketing?
So we partner. So we have a marketing director that kind of works for both. So my wife has her own construction company as well that does smaller projects, and so we have like kind of a part time. Our only really part time employee that works for both companies. So she does marketing for us and marketing also for my wife's company. So I guess I didn't mention that, but she's our only part time employee.
What about like your back end bookkeeping? Is that a outsourced function or do you have a full time bookkeeper?
No, we have a full-time bookkeeper, obviously we have an accounting company that we work with. We have a full-time bookkeeper on staff that does like, all of our, receipts and inputs in the job tread and whatnot. And then, and then we have, a lady at the front desk that, answers calls, greets people, sets up the showroom, things like that.
Awesome.
Like, I guess an office assistant, I guess is what you would call that role.
Sure. No, that's great. Is interesting. You got me thinking earlier when you were talking about, rebranding, from custom quality carpentry to, to CQC homes. Like how did that like transition happen? Because I know a lot of people, they chose a name for their business early on, but then as they grow, they kind of feel like it doesn't like truly represent, the type of work that they've sort of adapted and grown into. Like, but there's that like fear of like, I've built my brand and my reputation and my website and my social and everything's like, focused on this current brand. Like how did you, have the confidence and make that jump to truly rebrand the business?
Yeah, it was tough, and I mean, we did a lot of things to try to let the local market know. This is kind of a funny story that I told a lot of people, but I had like 500 of those little yard signs that politicians use, and then when we rebranded the new logo, I put the logo on there and our website, and I said, "What is CQC Home, and I put those all over our city, and then our website traffic like spiked overnight because people were like, "I want to know what is CQC Home," right? And so they would just go to the website and whether or not they were interested in remodeling or not, at least they like learned like custom quality carpentry is now CQC Home. So we did a lot of that. We did a lot of like grassroots stuff. Went to realtors, say, hey, we used to be this is what we are now, it's what we do. But it was tough. I mean, the CQC and CQC Home stands for custom quality carpentry, right? That's so we kind of kept that because we weren't big enough and didn't have enough money to redo all of our vehicles and redo all of our business cards or whatever. So we kind of wanted to keep that. So we're still the legal name of the company is Custom Quality Carpentry LLC, and we just DBA. We have a doing business as CQC Home. And then I actually let my employees, I say, hey, we're gonna rebrand. Let's figure out something. We sat down, we around the white table in our conference room and let them draw up logos and come up with ideas. And we just kind of landed on this, keeping the CQC from Custom Quality Carpentry, and then landed on the logo. That's the logo now. And then got the biggest sign that the city would allow us to have and put it on the main road. And even put up, even got a billboard and put it on a billboard, and just kind of like transitioned over into people recognizing. And now it's still a little, just because it's kind of a hard to say CQC, just doesn't roll off your tongue very well. But now it's become like people pretty much know who we are and know it. Even if they, a lot of people, a lot of our clients. I mean, I've done $1 million projects for clients, and they don't even know what CQC stands for. You know, and I mean, I've had clients ask me like, "What is it?" I don't even know what that means. But it's not necessarily important to know what it stands for unless someone really wants to know the backstory. But we just, to your point, we were very much pigeonholed into like, I would have people say, "Oh, I don't want to hire you for my kitchen because you guys are carpenters, just do carpentry," and we just didn't want to that. So we had to get out of that. And then also, I noticed, as a lot of small companies do, we just use a generic logo of us, like I said, a saw, hammer, and a nail. And I was like, man, 30 other people have a very similar version of this exact same logo. And we want to be different. We want to be better. We want to offer more to our clients. And so we got to kind of, do something unique. And that's where that transition came from.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, when you think about kind of all of your marketing efforts, like what would you say, has been the most impactful, and maybe what hasn't worked on marketing?
Most impactful, I would say, is real honestly, is building relationships over time and following up. The fortunes in the follow up, as you know. I think a lot of people they get ghosted, or they get a no, or they get a maybe, and then they just kind of like write them off and just go to look searching for the next opportunity. Consistent follow up. I get more business from realtors and colleagues that I've been, probably just from that one avenue than like a lot of construction companies get for all of their marketing efforts. But I've been doing it for years and it's consistent, and so I think follow up and building relationships has probably been the biggest one. Um, what hasn't worked, Bing has not worked. I actually I thought advertising on Bing would be great because, the older generation, they go get a computer, it comes with Bing, they never change it, whatever. But I've spent a lot of money and effort on Bing, gotten very little return on it. So, and also I would say, I not to like, crap on anybody or whatever, but I've had very, very little success with like Angie's List, and things like that. Anything I've had to like pay for a service. I've had very little, thumbtack, things like that, which I did early on in my career, little to no return. So, high return on. Another thing that I think is really cool that we do, that I'll mention here, that that I think people can take from this. We have a partner referral program, which basically says like, okay, if you refer us someone, we take great care of them. If they sign a design contract, we'll give you X dollars. They sign a build contract, we'll give you X dollars, and it's scaled based on the size of the job. Depending on how large the job is, right? But I have a marketing budget. It's significant. For most remodeling companies, it's usually between 2 and 6% of our revenue. So it's pretty big marketing budget. I'd much rather spend every single dollar of that marketing budget, if I could, giving it to referral clients that it's guaranteed versus like spending it and hoping to get a job, right? So if you, Eric, send me a referral, and let's say it's a $200,000 job, and I give you $2,000 or whatever it is, I'd much rather give you that $2,000. That's a guaranteed job versus spending that on Google and hoping that I get a job, if that makes sense, right? So we have a partner referral program. We give it to anyone that refers us a job. We go to realtors' offices once a month, give it to them, give it to brokers, give it to, all different types of people in the industry. And as they refer us business, we put it in our spreadsheet. We track it as the people come in, as they sign a design agreement. It immediately cues to send them a check in the mail, right? As as a referral bonus. And then when they sign a build contract, same thing, right? So I'm going to spend the money anyways. Much rather spend it on a guaranteed job than a possible job.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, again, warm referrals all day long are gonna be
Oh yeah,
far better than a cold random lead, so
that's right.
by all means. So you called out Bing. I mean, have you I assume you've also worked with, like, Google Ads, I mean, Meta, Facebook ads, have any of those others, have they worked, not worked?
Yeah, we do. I mean, we do a combination of all of them. Google My Business, obviously Meta, social media, TikTok. We, I would say the social media leads have been more for like branding and consistency and like, keeping them, you know, they're looking to hire a remodeling company, but they may be a year out or 2 years out. They're just interested, right? Whereas someone calling us from our Google ad or looking for directions or obviously coming to our showroom from our Google ad, there's a lot higher level of intention, right? So
Yeah,
so we spend a little more money on Google than we do on social media ads, but it's I still highly recommend it. And there's a lot of cool tools that you can and very easy to build. Like that work well, like calculators. If you know your numbers, okay, your average kitchen, for a medium-sized kitchen is 80 to $120,000. You can build out a very basic calculator that just, you can put on social media and put a very small spin behind it, have people answer a series of questions, and and then it sends it to you on what it is they want to do because they've answered the series of questions, and then at the end they can say, do they want to hire you or not? But at least you get their information, you get in, and you can put them into like a follow-up funnel, cold follow-up funnel, or they'll say, hey, I'm interested. So, but those tools are really, there's some that are out there available you can buy, but you also can build one very easily.
sure.
And those tools, I would say, are a very good recommendation for remodeling companies to try to implement.
Yeah, awesome. So, once you get a lead, comes in, contacts you, walk us through what's your sales process look like?
So we do something a little different. So I started lead carpenter system, then went to project management system, and now we use what's called a project director system. So what I found was that a lot of homeowners like that personal touch that you get from a small business where I'm the owner, I come meet you, I sell you the job, I stay involved, I take you through the design process, I take you through the project. I'm the last one there taking photos with the design, whatever, right? So it's a very personal experience. I'm the first person to build rapport. So I found that they like that. So basically what I did is we created a system where that person is now we call them project directors, where they build the relationship, they build their book of business, and then they have the rapport with the client through the whole process. So they go do the sales process, they send them a proposal, they leverage the design team for the client. So they are the liaison for the client, but they're not designing anything, right? They sit in on the meetings, they make sure that what they sold the client or what they agreed to, what the client wanted is what's actually being designed and developed and also within their budget. Then they leverage the design team, they walk them through the design process. They once it goes to construction, they have a dedicated project manager. Project manager just does the construction side of it. So they are, calling the subcontractors. Everything's already been predetermined and pre-selected and pre-estimated. So they're just calling, setting everything up, right? So they're setting up all the subcontractors. They're calling all the inspections in. They're doing the day-to-day construction related stuff. But that project manager is tied to that project director. So they are a team, right? So the project manager only does jobs for that project director. So the project director doesn't have to be, they can meet the client once every 2 weeks once the job is in construction, just to like check in or whatever. But any conversation related to numbers, scope change, anything of that nature, all goes through the project director. And so they are that one point of contact for the client from start to finish. It's a very complex job because it's a lot of moving parts, but they're not having to run the job as a project manager. They're not having to do the design as a design team. They're not having to do any of the back end stuff, marketing and accounting and all that stuff. That's done by the team. So it allows them to like really focus on giving a great client experience from start to finish. And there's no loss of rapport. The client is the same person that showed up to sell them the job is the same person that's there giving them their thank you gift at the end of the project and making sure they're happy.
Man, I love that. I feel like there is that, like, so often that handoff just doesn't quite go well, and it's hard to hand off a relationship. Like,
Oh yeah.
when you love the person who came and sold you the project, but then, like, now you got to deal with someone else. Like, I love the consistency that you're creating by having that same point person throughout the entire project. From the customer standpoint, they got one butt to kick if something's not going right.
That's right.
They really develop that rapport. So, I mean, I think that's a really nice touch.
Yeah, and there's not I noticed, before we started this model, there's also like a lot of finger pointing, right? And so the salesman is motivated to sell. Like they as the project director, they're motivated to make sure that what they sell can be built and designed and within that budget. Because if it doesn't go to construction, they're paid a percentage of gross profit. So like they don't want to sell something that they can't produce.
Yep.
Whereas salesmen are just motivated just to get it through. So they may a job that they should sell for 150,000, they may push it and say we can do it for 120, right? Well, that can't be done. So then the client goes in design. The designer's like, we can't do this for 150. It doesn't work. So then they're pointing fingers at the salesman and saying, "Hey, this budget number you gave us is not high enough. We can't do what they want for that number, right?" And then vice versa when he goes into construction without having that one person. If it's the construction team's building it, if it's missing things or it's not, the client's like, "Oh, I wanted this." Well, it's not there. Construction team is blaming the design team, right? So there's a lot of finger pointing that goes on. Whereas that's the project director, since he was there from the initial, like, I know what it is you're showing, told me what you wanted. I designed what you wanted. We agreed to that. I'm building you what we agreed to, what we from the very first beginning through the design phase. And so there's no loss of control, and then there's no finger pointing. It's one point of contact. And then another layer to that, the project directors are only paid a percentage of gross profit. So therefore, they're motivated to sell the job at the right amount with the right GP, get it through design without any additional scope items that aren't charged for because they don't want to do it. And then when it goes to construction, they're motivated to make sure it stays on time, on budget. They're paid on gross profit, so they want to make sure it doesn't. We're not having slippage and they're not wasting materials. We're not over ordering things because the higher the gross profit is, the more money they're going to make on that job, right? So, and of course, all of it falls. Like, you got to have a happy client. Yeah, I mean that's a minimum, right? So, but their income is dependent on how well they do with that client, and then because they kind of operate like a small business, the more business they bring in, the more jobs they get, the more money they're going to make. So if they go create a relationship with a realtor, every single job that realtor calls them for and says, "Hey, I got a client, I need you to come do it." That's their book of business, and they're going to get the opportunity to make that money. So therefore, it motivates them to go out and sell more, prospect more, bring in more business, and they just kind of operate like their own small business within the construct of the overall business.
Man, I love that, man. Like the first thing I did when I took over the construction business was I got the both, we had, salesperson and then we had project managers. I essentially changed their comp where I had them both compensated by the gross profit of the job. So they were incentivized, together and shared that. They may even got the same amount, percentage. So like they had to work together and you couldn't just sell the job, just way out of the ballpark and not be able to actually execute on it. That didn't do any good. But like, man, I really love how you kind of you give them the opportunity to act like an owner, act like this is your small business, your book of business, like, and they, yeah, like they're going to operate and take every relationship, every opportunity, every problem, and they're going to deal with it as an owner because their compensation is directly tied to how do we perform on this job. I mean, man, that's genius.
Yeah, it's killer, and there's so much more buy-in for them with the client experience, with the financials, with understanding and managing gross profit. I mean, since changing, I think I told you earlier, since transitioning to that, I mean, we pretty much stay consistently across. We on any given time we have about 40 to 50 active projects, around average of 400,000 active in construction, and about 40 in design. And we consistently stay within 1% slippage and grippage. So they sell a job at 38%. We can pretty much guarantee they kind of know what they're going to make as soon as the job signs the contract, right? And the way we do it, just if anyone's following along and they want to try to implement, I'm happy to share our SOPs for this as well, for PD, PM roles. We give them 50% when the job signs, and they give us a deposit. So they get 50% of their projected gross profit. So we know if it's $100,000 job, we're expected to get 38% gross profit. We're going to get $38,000 in gross profit. They get 10% of that, so that's $3,800, right? So that's how much money they are going to make on this job if it achieves 38% gross profit. We give them half of that the day the client gives us a deposit, and then the other half when the job is complete and wrapped up, so we know exactly what it cost us. And if they achieved a higher gross profit, they'll get more. If they achieved a lower gross profit, they'll get less, right? And we just net it out at the end of the job. So again, they're motivated to get a higher gross profit on every single job, which it just aligns their job by job to the overall a goal for the business. So everyone's aligned together, working towards the same goals.
So do they also have a base component to that?
Yeah, so I mean, we give a base. It's not necessarily a base. It was when they're training, it starts as the base because they got to ramp up their book of business. Once they ramp up their book of business and they're running that their book of their if they're performing as they should, they're going to make more than what their base would have been. So then it really is. I mean, yeah, we have a consistent amount that we would give them, but it's like a bank. You know, 20,000 a quarter, plus or minus whatever you did. And then it just nets out every
Well,
quarter. So, but they'll make more than
it's
that.
like a draw.
Yeah, that's right.
Nice.
So,
Yeah.
and we do that so they have a level of consistency. But our project director, like last year, my best project director, I mean, he almost made $200,000, running his business, and he ran $8 million worth of work, by himself. So, I mean, the sky's the limit. Opportunity, you can do as much as you want, but it's also a lot of work. And like you said, operating like a small business. Your clients, your book of business calling you on a Saturday afternoon, you want to answer the phone, and because you want to make sure that that project is moving smoothly. And again, it
Yeah.
kind of builds that level of buy-in that you just don't get by just giving an hourly pay.
I mean, would you directly credit that model to enabling you and I guess also probably in part having Daryl there, but like being able to step back and the business runs itself, as you said earlier. I mean, like
Yep,
it seems like you've really empowered them to take ownership and probably to not have to involve you in every single decision and every fire that's
absolutely.
burning. Like they have the power and the ability to go put out the fire themselves. It might cost them, but it seems like you've really given them a lot of autonomy to go and run.
A ton, and yes, the answer to your question is yes. So Daryl, as operations on the back end, he's managing HR, finances, marketing, all of our like lead flow, insurances, the business side of the business, which allows these guys. That's the hard part that a lot of construction guys don't want to do. They just want to go build the thing well, right? They want to go out and be with the customer, right? And so it allows them to kind of run their own small business without having to do all the behind the scene business tasks that are, mundane but necessary, right? But yeah, no, it definitely gives a lot of autonomy. I still, as the CEO, I mean, I go bring in business, and then basically what I do as I bring in the business, I introduce the PD to that, potential prospect or opportunity, and then they kind of take that relationship and run with it, right? And so they're motivated to run with that relationship and get as much business as they can out of there for the business. And so they all operate at a little bit different levels based on capacity and workload or whatever. But they're you get like I said, one guy can do up to 8 million. So we can right now. I mean, we have two full time. I mean, two guys that have been with us for a while, and then one guy that's training. He's actually this week going on his first true sales calls because he's kind of through the training process. So
Yeah. So, we just got to spend time together at Job Trade Connect. You were there both, representing CQC, but also builders breakthrough advisors. Like tell us a little bit about that, because I'm starting to now see how you've had some time to be able to actually set up another business to help other people. So what's that all about?
yeah, so I mean, I've been coaching for man 3 4 years, for at no cost, and I was able to build the CQC in a way that for the last couple years I really only had to work a couple hours a week. So it's like, well, what else? I enjoy helping people, I enjoy coaching people. The only thing I know is remodeling because I've been doing it since I was 19 and I'm 40. So like, how can I, if I'm already helping all these people, why don't I legitimize this? Create a business out of it where not only will it be profitable and it'll make money, but also it'll allow me to help a lot more people because it's a real business that brings in more clients, more prospects. So started it last year, did a proof of concept year. So we brought on 6 clients for the purpose of building, raving fans, but also, proof of concept and then refining our processes, right? We built our own internal dashboard that's very, it's specific to VBA, but it's very tons and tons of information and usability in it for our clients. But we had to get that right before we could go full to market. So we did that last year. All 6 clients we worked for all excelled dramatically and are singing our praises. One of our clients, they're up in Denver, Colorado. Well, not Denver, Colorado. They're north of Denver, Colorado, about an hour north of Denver, Colorado. There's a husband wife team, design build, small. Name of the company is Artisan. They were stuck at like 800,000 for like 6 years, and it's very frustrating because like it's just a glorified job at that point. They're just spinning their wheels and spinning their wheels, and they're working their butt off, but they just are like they're almost like ready to throw their hands in the air and give up on the business. after a year of working with BBA, last year they did 2.8 million. So they tripled their sorry, 2.4 million. So they tripled their revenue and they 2.5 extra gross profit in 1 year. So, and that's just one of the success stories. But like, able, did we just come in and help them, give them coaching advice, give them process, give them systems, basically teach them the things that I learned and put into place, and just to save them the time and energy of having to do it themselves, but also teaching them all the things not to do. Right? You know, what I mean, all the bumps on my head, all the mistakes that I've made, all the client issues that I've had, teach them how to avoid those things. So, so now I kind of focus my time on building people and building other small businesses. We kind of focus on the, you know, 500,000 to, you know, $5 million range companies. We have 17 clients now, and growing. And like I said, it's kind of been fun to see these businesses grow and be able to give back more to their families and their communities, and you know, in their teams, and be able to see like what's, they have a great idea for a business, but be able to help them legitimize and create a real business that actually is rewarding to them and their family. That's been kind of exciting.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome to again. I've been watching and learning from you for a long time now, and to see like how again you have such an in-depth knowledge and understanding of how to build a successful construction business from the ground up. You're not just coming in here, kind of some fancy consultant from some big high powered firm. Like you literally have built your own success story, and the fact that though you're not just stopping there, you're turning and trying to help others achieve that same level of success. I mean, that's why you and I are so similar, and I think really genuinely want to help other people. I mean, that's awesome, man. Like I think it's so important that again, people who can be role models and can help others achieve success. Like we need more people like that in this world, and specifically in this industry, because again, there are a lot of people who just whether it's their own fault or not, they don't know what they don't know. Like they're just not building great businesses, and they're hurting the industry, and they're hurting the reputation of contractors. Even though there's not, it's a small percentage, but like we got to focus on those guys too. We need them to elevate and to come up and to do the right job and to sell at the right price and quit cutting corners, because like that's what hurts all of us.
That's
And
right.
I think it's so important that again, more people go and find coaching, and they find the right people who can show them the way, because like clearly, like you can build a very successful and very profitable business, but you got to do the right things.
Yeah.
And the sooner you can figure that out, you don't need a fancy expensive MBA. Like I mean, again, you clearly self-taught, right? But like, man, like they can save themselves so much time and energy by partnering up with someone like you who's literally giving them the playbook.
Yep, literally, if I tell people if I had, BBA when I started, I mean, I would have been where I'm at today 10 years sooner. You know, it just saved so much money, time, energy, headache. I mean, we have over 200 SOPs, like each one of those, and these aren't like ChatGPT SOPs. These are SOPs that we built from scratch that work and are in real time. And to your point, like we, everything that we teach and everything that we coach, you know, we're keeping up with industry as it changes and evolves. Like job trade is a great example. We learn it, we implement it in real time at a large scale, and then we make sure it works, and then we teach it and coach it to our team. So like everything that we do is it's like these are all things that are we're doing in real time. You know, there's 6 team members on with BBA. I'm one of 6. Each one is a specialist in their own trade. So we have financial, marketing, HR, operations. I'm like sales or fractional CEO. And they're all of these, our whole team. They're all specialists in what they do, and they all either have owned, do own, or have worked in a remodeling company. So it's very niche, very specific. But you know, there's a reason why we're the second largest failing industry in the United States after restaurants, man, and it's terrible. And I would love to, like to your point, I would love to change that. I would love to be a small part of saying, like, you know, we help change and help people become businesses so they wouldn't fail.
Yeah. No, 100%. And look, I can tell you, like, I know we are making an impact. Like I see, firsthand. I mean, we're about, 10,000, construction companies using job tread, and like it is working. It is making an impact, and we just need more people to keep coming, and again, helping others to take it to the next level. Cause
Yep,
it's not easy, right? I mean, if it was easy, everybody would do it.
everybody was doing it well. Yeah.
So, so again, this has been extremely insightful, man. I really appreciate it. As we kind of wrap up here, like, is there any like just kind of if you had to give just a couple pieces of advice to to others who maybe, again, earlier on struggling, trying to follow in your footsteps, like what would you say is like some of the best advice that you could leave them to hopefully help them, get on the right track and eventually, get to the level that you're at.
Yeah, so one thing I would say, I have this written on all of my whiteboards in my offices, is rising tide raises all ships. So, what that means is, like, instead of just being like, I'm just going to do for me, like, the more you give out and help other people, train other people, coach other people. I mean, I heard a long time ago, I'd much rather train someone and they leave than not train them and they stay, right? So, like, pouring into other people, looking out for other people's success. Like, I want Job Trade to be the most successful, it could possibly can be, and I'll support you, and I, root for you guys, and root for your team. And like, the better you do, the better I do, the better my clients do, the better we all do. We're all in this industry together, working together. So, I would say support other people. Look for the best in other people, and then just try to, like, as you build your network of other subcontractors and vendors and all the people that you do business with, like, pour into them, so that they do better, which therefore your business will do better. And then the second thing I've seen a lot of small construction company founders struggle with is just letting go of control. Right? I say if it's 80% right, I let them run with the decision. I don't say, okay, here's a better way to do it. So, like, allowing people, bringing in good people. So you got to have a process to bring in good people, right? But you bring in good people, creative people, talented people, and then just let them do their job. Give them the process, give them the systems, give them the SOPs, give them the expectations, and then just let them make good decisions. And they're gonna make some bad ones. They're not all gonna be perfect or exactly the way you would do it, but they're gonna learn from it. And the more learning opportunities they have, the faster they get to where you want them to be. So if it's 80% right, I don't make a correction. I say that's close enough. Go learn from your mistakes. Therefore, you'll actually learn from it and get better. And I don't say they're mistakes; they're learning lessons, right? So, and the more they learn, the more valuable they are to themselves, to the team, to our clients. So, let go a little bit. Trust but verify, right? But, give the right expectations and let people go be creative and do their thing. And, as long as you got the right KPI set to check in on and make sure things are going well, you'll be fine. You'll be surprised at how freeing it is to when you're like, and I'm the only person that can do this task. And then you allow someone else to do it. And sometimes they even do it better than you were doing it. You're like, man, can't believe I was always holding on to that task and I didn't want to let it go. Like, but they're actually doing this task better than I felt like I could never let that task go. And once you do, and then you continue to let go of tasks and let other people that can do that role better than you can, man, it's very freeing.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, there you have it, everyone. You see why I've wanted to have Ken Hums on this podcast for a long time. Again, I've been very impressed by the business you've built. All of the great advice and the coaching, the help. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you for being such a great role model. For those of you out there, if you're doing remodeling, looking to take your business to the next level, definitely reach out to Ken and his team. They're proud supporters of Job Tread Connect user conference. If you didn't get to meet them there, they're on the marketplace. Like, we highly recommend you guys reach out to them because they clearly have great systems, processes, coaching that they can provide. But, again, with your construction business, like, man, I'm excited to see where you take it because, you got a great system there, great team. You're making a really big impact, doing great work. It's fun to watch you keep growing, man. Like,
I appreciate that.
I can't wait to see where you're going to be at in the next few years. But thank you again for coming on, for taking the time to share, a little bit more about your story, how you've built this business. It's been really fun, really exciting, and look forward to keep working with you, man.
Thank you, brother. Same. I really appreciate it. And it's been really exciting. I think I had told you before. I was like Co-Construct's first remodeling client. I was like their sample because they were just was mainly a new construction business. And like when they first started, was with them for a very long time. Switched to Builder Trend when they bought them for a year. And I've just been so impressed with watching your growth with Job Trade and what you guys have done and the team you brought together. It's been really, really cool to see. And now we're bought in. I mean, every single one of all of our BBA clients except for one is uses Job Trade, and it's been phenomenal to see how much it's really changed their business and helped them to become more systematized and organized. And it's a cool thing to see. So I appreciate it. Thank you guys for all you do for sure, man.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Ken. Have a good one.
No, you too, brother.
See ya. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Builder Stories. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained valuable insights that can help you in your journey along the way. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave us a review. And as always, if you or someone you know has a story to share, please contact us at builderstories.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Eric Fortenberry, and remember, every builder has a unique story. Keep building yours.